Hey guys, King of Charmanders here. Today I will be your judge, jury, and analyst, and a lot of people have asked me about ABB for retro, so you know what? Let's do it. There's actually a lot of combinations you can do as far as ABB teams for the Retro Cup. There's a lot of combinations that are pretty safe, but I wouldn't say they're like friendly as far as like your Stardust, because if you look over here in the rankings, if we go to the Retro Cup, oh yeah, hold on, before I do anything, please consider contributing to ppoke.com. So if we go to the rankings for the Retro Cup, here's what we get. So here's the Retro Cup, and then as you see here, Psychic types really dominate the meta. So, but the problem is the best ABB combinations, in my opinion, feature really expensive mons, like Cresselia, Mew. There's all Deoxys defense, either they're expensive or generally inaccessible. Lickitung is also a very powerful combo as far as like ABB cores, etc. So again, it's not very user friendly. You don't need to do ABB. However, a lot of ABB the concept of it, the anti-meta ABB, or just like having that like theme in general, is really strong for this cup. Especially with Steel Fairy's banned, like Dark Dark too, but like, yeah. So it's Steel and Fairy and Dark being banned because of those three types being banned. It's a lot of things that could run rampant. Anyways, let's get started. Alright, so for my first team, I think this is probably like a budget ABB team, to be honest with you. As you see here, I have Altaria, Snorlax, and Vigoroth. Vigoroth is surprisingly good in this meta. Yes, there's a lot of Psychic types running around, but just for the sheer virtue of having Body Slam makes it really, really good. Vigoroth can 2-shield its way through Lickitung. It can also 2-shield its way through Altaria. So Vigoroth isn't a bad pick. Either being in the back or in the... Yeah, it's not a bad pick at all. Like, I like it a lot. The only issue with Vigoroth is that there's a lot of Psychic types running around. But like I said, because Body Slam just does so much damage, it's not a bad idea to use it. In this case, I'm using Altaria with double normal. Altaria is there to cover the fighting weakness, but Altaria can beat through a lot of things in a 2-shield, which is why it's so strong as a lead. This essentially, what this also does is this kind of like takes the ice out of the equation. Snorlax is a great safe switch in this meta, just because of the sheer virtue of having Lick, and you can pretty much customize its moveset. I like running Superpower on it, just because if you get other normal types, you can possibly go for that last, like, whatever, like, last hit Superpower, or, like, if you get the Ice types, like Dugong or Lapras, you could surprise them by smacking them in with a... But, in other words, even though you have Snorlax, the better option is Lickitung. That's what makes it kind of difficult. Lickitung is the most powerful normal type, as well as the most powerful overall mon in the Retro Cup. So a lot of what you will see in the future, what I will feature as far as like in the next upcoming teams, will feature Lickitung. As you see here, this team doesn't do very bad though. Great coverage, great bulk, great safety. It's going to do a ton of damage, and like I said, just because Vigoroth's Body Slam does a ton of damage. This is kind of the budget version of the ABB that I was thinking about. I think some people asked me about Vigoroth. I think Vigoroth is really good. It's gonna suck if you do pair up against Frostless, because you will have to bulldoze it to death, but you can essentially, if Frostless has enough chip damage on it, you can bully your way through Frostless. Just putting that out there. Also, you be careful of the Drifblim, because Drifblim effectively walls Vigoroth. I don't see a lot of Drifblim teams running around, just because of the just because of Ice types, and I mean Drifblim's really freaking good, but like there's a lot of Ice types, and there's a lot of like things I can hit with like Shadow Ball, etc. But just keep that in mind. Vigoroth hates Drifblim. But as you see here, this team does your back row does well against Lickitung, and like I said, Altaria can 2-shield its way through Lickitung. You see Frostless safe switch into Snorlax, try to finish off Frostless with Altaria Sky Attack, or bulldoze away with Vigoroth, or try to just chip away at Frostless. This team is very, very powerful. As you see here, it does really good against a lot of top meta picks. The only thing I have, here's the one thing. Drifblim. So Drifblim loses to Alt in the 1s, but Drifblim can beat it in the 2-shield. So if you have to, essentially, if you get the Ice type or the Ice type Charge Attacker in the lead, you're gonna have to finesse it a little bit. But this is a very good team. As you see here, you're like, the only thing is that like core break this entire team. I already mentioned the ice weakness, as you see here, for Frostless, etc. You beat, okay, so here's the thing, don't get blizzarded by a Wish Cash. Altaria beats Wish Cash as, so here's the thing, all you have to do to beat Wish Cash with Altaria is to call one bait. If you eat one mud, I know this is a lot to ask for, because if you get, you just have to eat one mud bomb. If you can eat one mud bomb, you could straight sky attack and just shield everything. So that's how you beat Wish Cash. However, if Wish Cash does blizzard you, you will die. Just keep that in mind. But as you see here, the only things that core break this team are basically Gyarados, Articuno, Primeape, Poliwrath, Ludicolo, and Frostless. From 2 till after, from 2 to 5, you probably won't see a lot of those. Gyarados is a little scary, so you could probably see that one, but either way, double normal does do very well. With Altaria to cover the fighting type weakness and fighting in general just not being very popular in this meta, this team can get you a lot of dubs if you don't have a lot of like those legendary Pokemon or Lickitung XL. With a pretty medium high threat score, but like I said, 2 through 5 you won't see a lot. You won't see Articuno, Primeape, Poliwrath, or Ludicolo a lot. Alright, so the team is, so this team is basically the rich man's version, or rich lady's version of the previous team. So this features, instead of putting Snorlax as your safe, you're going to use Lickitung XL. So with Lickitung XL, you can put Munchlax, Snorlax in the back, and it's actually pretty legit. So if you go down here as far as ABB, incredible amounts of bulk. Altaria and Lickitung on its own actually core and make this team really bulky. I just put Munchlax in here just for filler. You can use Snorlax. I like Munchlax just because of the better, like the more bulk, the better. This team's, it's great safety. The reason why it's not super safe is just because of your fight. It's just because of the fighting back row, but even then, it's still very, very powerful. And it's, of course, extremely consistent, so it's going to do a ton of damage. As you see here, the Bs work very, very well for the As. What you can do is, if you put, as long as it's not a Medicham XL, for example, if they have a Machamp, you can throw Lickitung out there, Body Slam, and do a lot of damage, and then fry the Machamp that comes out. So Lickitung will be your safe switch. As you see, there's a lot of... The Deoxys defense can give you a little bit of a problem, but if you see it in the lead, Altaria does beat it in the 2 shield. This team does very, very well, as you see, and it doesn't have a lot of weaknesses, like a lot of core weaknesses. Of course, Altaria is going to get obliterated by an Ice type, but as you see, Ice types are really its only issue as far as Ice lead, but that doesn't mean your switches can't take it out. And Altaria is very flexible and can do a lot of damage over time just because Dragon Breath is so overpowered. So, as you see, this team is very, very strong, minus what I mentioned before, the Ice-type lead in the front. This is why I like Snorlax, because you can superpower the Ice-type in the back, or the Ice-water tanks, as you see here, and just blast them to victory. But, other than that, pretty generic way to play the team. You lose the lead, say switch into Lickitung, or you can use Lickitung to draw out the fighter and then blast it out with Altaria. Don't recommend you do that, but most of the time what you will see, and what you will switch out of anyways, is basically an Ice lead, which you need to switch out of anyway. So again, you switch out of the Ice lead. If it's a Frostless, that's even better, because you got Munchlax to lick down Frostless. For example, if you switch into Lickitung and their main switch is Frostless, you kind of do really well. So just keep that in mind. But very, very powerful team, 663. So if you have Licky XL, it's not a bad idea to pair it with Altaria. There are more powerful combinations with Lickitung, but as far as Altaria double normal or Dragon double normal, works incredibly well in the Retro Cup. Alright, team number 3, Altaria double Psychic. So double Psychic in the back actually can work incredibly well in the Retro Cup. So when you ban Dark and Steel types, Psychics are incredibly powerful, which is why a lot of the switches you see are Psychic types, because like I mentioned before, Psychic, the only weakness Psychic has is Ghost, and the only really prominent Ghost type is Drifblim, which means Drifblim can effectively erase your double Psychic in the back. However, because you can just bully your way through Drifblim. You can bully your way through Drifblim. You can bully your way through anything and hope that your back row can finish it off. But as you see, double Psychic is incredibly powerful. This features Mew and Hypno. You can replace Mew with like Deoxys defense. Actually, I prefer Deoxys defense, but if you really want to try out your Mew, double Psychic isn't a bad idea. Hypno will be your safe switch. You can also use Mew as a safe switch depending on which scenario you read or which you feel comfortable with. Altaria lead is just a beast because it's Altaria, okay? As you see here, it doesn't have great coverage just because of it's really Mew and Hypno to blame in the back, but it doesn't, like, you'll still do a ton of damage. It's also very safe and somewhat bulky. The only reason you have a B rating for bulk is because of Mew. Even though Mew can tank some damage, it can't tank a lot of damage. Like, you need a few moves, not a lot of moves, though. As you see here, Lickitung XL, you beat Lickitung XL in the 2-shield with Altaria. Frostless is why I'm kinda iffy about this, is that you'll safe switch. If you see a Frostless, you can safe switch into Mew and try to Rock Slide it to death. The keyword is try. But as far as that, Hypno can nuke Frostless with Shadow Ball, and you could possibly take out Frostless with Altaria Sky Attack. If you see an Ice lead, like I said, with every generic Altaria lead, or yeah, just every Dragon Flare team, or if you're using a Dragon Direct lead, safe switch and get out of there if it's an Ice. But as you see, very, very powerful. Altaria does melt Lickitung into 2-shield, so you can beat that in 2-shield. You can also beat Jellicent. However, if it's a Jellicent with Ice Beam, you lose. The general rule of thumb is that if it's an Ice-type charge move attacker, you probably will die. But if it's Jellicent, if Jellicent isn't carrying Ice Beam, you can beat it. Other than that, your best way to beat Jellicent is literally probably Shadow Balling to death with Hypno, or like I said, you can beat it with Altaria if it doesn't have Ice Beam. If it does have Ice Beam, you straight up lose a 2-shield. What you can do is expend both of your shields on Jellicent and kind of leave it in the 2-0s, and then farm down with Mew Shadow Claw. That's a play you could do. But either way, Jellicent, if it's not if it's carrying, you figure out it doesn't have Ice Beam, you could finesse the matchup. But if it has Ice Beam, just be very, very careful. Also, Ice type leads does give this team a little bit of a problem. Mew has Rock Slide, so it does have super effective attacks against. You could use Wild Charge instead of Rock Slide just to make up for it. But the reason why you have Rock Slide is just for the Ice types. Rock Slide allows you to hit Frostless. Rock Slide also allows you to hit both of the Lapras and Dugong without debuffing yourself. So that's why Rock Slide and Ice Beam is the preferred moveset. Ice Beam, of course, for the Dragons. This team is very, very good. Lickitung XL, again, you blast through it in 2-shield, and I already explained a lot about the Ice lead or the Ice charge move lead. This is why the leads are, like, your biggest weakness are all Ice-type Pokemon. That's literally just the only justification behind it. But, again, with Lickitung, you can blast your way through the 2-shields with Altaria, and Hypno and Mew can sweep the back. But, good team. Very high threat. Like, right here. If you want to try it, this is only for those of you with Mew, that if you really want to give it a shot with Mew, like, you can try the ABB route. But in my opinion, ABC is a little better if you guys really want to have fun with Mew. But hopefully that helps you decide whether or not you want to use Mew for the Retro Cup. There's a lot of better things out there, so if you want to build it to have fun, that's great. Do you need it for the Retro Cup? Not necessarily. Alright, so the second team I have up here is Fighter Double Ice. Now, the reason why Double Ice works in here, ironically, is just because of the fact that the fighters are kind of not recommended, but at the same time, Frostless doesn't take super effective damage against, ironically, well, it doesn't take neutral damage here just because it has the Ghost type, so that's the thing about Frostless. Frostless is kind of your anti-fight, like, it's Ice, but it's also Ghost, and the Ghost helps it out a lot. The reason why I'm Medicham in the lead is because Medicham can, so here's the thing, Medicham can beat Altaria in the 2-shield straight Ice Punch. The keyword is can. So you could effectively punch your way through with Medicham and sweep with your back row. So that's something you can do, or you can rev up with Power Up Punch. With Power Up Punch, just be aware that even though you're like with Power Up Punch, you can rev up against normal typings, it's not comfortable to get licked down. Just putting that out there. But Frostless is the most powerful safe switch and closer. Lapras is extremely thick and does very, very well in this meta, just because, like I mentioned, fighting is generally not frowned upon. And it does have a great amount of bulk. You can replace the lead with Machamp if you don't have this, but this team is I would say this is a more available team than the other ones, because like I said, you can replace it with Machamp with little drop-off. The thing about Machamp, though, is with Machamp, you can't run through the 2-shield with Machamp, and you drastically lower your coverage in bulk. Medicham is extremely bulky, its ability to punch its way through. The reason why I'm not using, you can use Power Up Punch, you can use Ice Punch Psychic. You probably want to use Ice Punch Psychic just to put through, but the reason why I have Ice Punch Psychic, or Ice Punch Power Up Punch, is because with Pup, you kind of want to blast your way through normal typers, because since there's so many lick Pokemon in here, Power Up Punch gives you an A for coverage, so you're able to cover more things with Power Up Punch. And like I said, you can rev up with Medicham. A Medicham with like +2 or 3, those counters start adding up. So this is why I have it in this order. But this is a pretty solid team as far as coverage goes. As you see, you do very, very well. You can 2-shield your way through Medicham. If you see a Frostless lead, just say switch in a Frostless. Generally, Lapras can beat Frostless. Like, if you expend shields, obviously the mirror is always rough whenever you play the mirror. However, you can win the mirror, or even if you, like, lose it by just a little bit, you can come out, like, farm down with Lapras, do some type of play. But again, Frostless is probably just going to be your worst nightmare with this team. Other than that, as you see here, Altaria can give you an issue, but like I mentioned before, you can Ice Punch your way to victory. Keep that in mind. Driplim's a little rough on the edges, but with double ice, you cover it with your back row. You can try to Ice Punch your way through Driplim and then farm it down with Frostless and Lapras. I don't recommend that strategy, though. Because if you get hit by a Shadow Ball by Driplim against Medicham, yes, you can beat it Ice Punch, but it's not comfortable. But a very, very powerful team. If you see things like Jellicent, or if you see a Ghost-type lead with Medicham, just switch out into Frostless and Lapras and try to play out the match. But this is a very, very strong team, with your only core breaker literally being an Alolan Raichu, which isn't, yeah, like an Alolan Raichu, which you probably won't see. Like, I can see Alolan Raichu being used, but not too much, just because there's a lot of, yeah, not too much, but, I mean, it's good, but like I said, not too much. But another thing is the Ghost lead can give you an issue, as in Haunter and Alolan Marowak. Haunter is kind of... Haunter not... Like, people can still use Haunter lead. I think Haunter lead is still very strong. So is Alolan Marowak lead. Those two combinations are very powerful. Frostless can nuke Alolan Marowak to oblivion. You also have Lapras for Alolan Marowak. But, again, the Fire/Ghost-type lead can be a little rough for... the Ghost-type lead can be very rough for Medicham. The reason why Alolan Marowak, I'm kind of like going back and forth with it, is because Alolan if it's Fire Spin, yeah, it can give you an issue. But it's like, the generic thing is to just say switch into Frostless and try to play out the match and see how it goes. This team has a very low threat score. 622 isn't like 5 below 600 or near to 600, but you know what? For an ABB team, this team is very, very effective. Again, if you lose the lead, say switch into Frostless, and keep in mind that you can't 2-shield your way through Altaria with Medicham. And it's like Medicham and Oli is very good. The reason why you have Power Up Punch is like with Power Up Punch you can take out Lickitung and you take out the Lick meta in the front. So that's why I like Power Up Punch. So again, if you have these Pokemon, like this is a good combination to use it with Medicham, but it has to be Medicham XL. That's why I'm really iffy about like availability. Frostless and Lapras have been out for a while, but Medicham XL is not a cheap Pokemon to power up and use. Alright, now the #1 team that you basically can ABB with, or the #1 Mon, is basically, of course, it's Lickitung. So Lickitung is the most powerful lead, but the thing about Lickitung is you can also core it with practically anything, and it becomes super good as far as like ABB goes. You can do double Ghost, etc. But Lickitung double Psychic is pretty beastly for this meta. As you see here, I have Lickitung, Deoxys Defense, and Hypno. You can put Cresselia in here, but I like Hypno in the back, but Deoxys Defense as your safe switch, or Hypno as your safe switch, and then Lickitung in the lead. Basically, if your opponent has a fighter, that fighter is probably going to die. A lot. But, hold on, let me switch this out here. You don't want to run Thunderbolt, you want to run Rock Slide, so let's see, run that, but... Again, this team is very, very strong just because of Lickitung XL. So as you see here, by changing it to Rock Slide, you have great coverage, great bulk, great safety. So this team is just freaking mad good. You won't do, the only reason your consistency isn't an A is because of Hypno, just because Confusion is slow. But the reason why you want Shadow Ball with Hypno is just to cover the Psychic/Ghost typing in the back. Lickitung in the lead, Deoxys Defense as your safe switch, and Hypno as your closer. You can also like use Hypno as your safe switch, it's really up to you, but either way, you're going to be pretty safe with this team. This team is extremely powerful. Lickitung lead is very, very good, but Lickitung DD core in general is just beastly. So if you put a Psychic type in the back, this is what you get. An ABB team from hell. So very, very good against a lot of combinations, with your biggest weakness literally being Chansey. Wait, what? Yep, Lickitung is probably, yeah, Chansey is your worst nightmare just because it resists your, yeah, I know it's funny, okay, but Chansey can technically lose to Deoxys Defense if you punch it. Well, if you beat the unholy hell out of Chansey enough, you can beat it, but it's just Chansey's bulk. I know it's ridiculous. Not a lot of people are going to have XL Chansey, so don't be super afraid of it. If you do see one, I'm so sorry. But Deoxys defense is either going to have to punch the unholy hell out of it, or Hypno's going to have to punch the unholy hell out of it. Or you're just going to have to whip it to death. Either way, find a way to win. But this team does very, very well against a lot of combinations. I know it says here that some things are beating Lickitung, but Lickitung beats a lot of combinations in the 2-shield. Remember, when you run the PV Poke Sims for team building, it only reflects from 0s and 1s. That way, what I like to do in the secret, like I say this a lot, run your lead against the 2-shield scenario, then compare it after that, because this won't show you the lead, what you beat in the lead accurately. So that's how I do things. Again, I run a matrix, and I'll see what Lickitung XL beats in the 2s, then I'll reflect my back row with Lickitung in the lead. And like I mentioned before, so just do that, and you'll do very, very, like, you can kind of, like, accurately tell, like, how a team measures up to other combinations, or just how, like, your lead actually plays out. So to make it accurate, again, just run a matrix with your lead, and then see what it beats in the 2 shields, and then just kind of, like, compare and contrast. But Lickitung XL is a beast, which is why it is the most powerful lead. And again, if you pair it with Deoxys defense, it's a beast, and then you can pair it in the back row with Hypno. I like Hypno a lot in this meta just because it's super flexible, and Shadow Ball does hit like a truck. So if you Shadow Ball an Alola Marowak, or if you Shadow Ball a Frostless, if it has chip damage, likely it's going to die or be nearly dead. So that's why I really like Hypno in the back. As you see, insanely low threat score, close to... This is the lowest one I found as far as when I was trying to put stuff together. A low threat score doesn't really mean too much as far as like that, but in a condensed meta like the Retro Cup, it can matter a lot. The only thing that would suck is if you saw like a Psychic type in the back, but Deoxys defense and Hypno, that's why you have Shadow Ball on Hypno to cover that extra Psychic type in the back, and of course if you pair it up against Lickitung, Lickitung can lick down a lot of Psychic types yeah, it just licks everything down to death. But they're just a super powerful team. If you don't like Hypno in the back, again, like I told you, Lickitung and DD core together very well, but Lickitung with double Psychic works very, very well in the Retro Cup, and I think it's like the most powerful combination as far as ABB goes in the Retro Cup. And that's it. I hope you guys enjoy that. That's all, folks, or something like that. I don't want to. Don't copyright me. Like, wait, well, hold on. Okay, what is it? Warner Brothers or like Bugs Bunny? I don't know. Anyways, as you see here, that's it. And that's it. As you see, ABB teams can be a lot of fun in the Retro Cup. They also work surprisingly well. Double Psychic does do very well because when you ban Steel and Dark types, Psychics run rampant. That's why they're so dang powerful in the Retro Cup, and that's why Frostless is really freaking good, because Frostless can beat down the Albatross that is Altaria and Shadow Ball the Psychic types to death if you don't beat the crap out of Frostless first. But that's why Frostless is so good. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope these ABB teams do help you out. You could do some draw out strats, but there's so many options. I didn't really be super specific with it. I gave you 5 teams. Yes, Lickitung is super expensive, and I heavily disagree that Lickitung is even allowed in the Retro Cup just because of how powerful it is. In any position, Lickitung XL can flip anything just because it's so obscenely thick and because of the fact that it has Lick. Lick is literally the sheer reason why Lickitung is so strong. If it only had something like Pound and it never had Lick, then it wouldn't be as good as it is. But that's pretty much it. Again, the Lickitung XL is a beast. You can pair it with a lot of combinations, but Altaria can also pair well with 2 combinations in the back as well. Again, draw-out strats for the Retro Cup are a little complicated, so I didn't go too into it, but if you do want to use the ABB gimmick, again, double Psychic works really strong in this meta, as I mentioned before. Also, double Ice like Lapras and Frostless. Anyways, if you haven't done so yet, please like and subscribe. Hopefully these ABB teams do help you out, or you want to give them a shot because you're a legend, or you're trying to reach that final... If you're trying to climb to legend, I wouldn't recommend try ABB. Try ABC. ABC would work really well for the Retro Cup because you want to cover as much ground as you can. Not to say that you can't do it with an ABB team, but the thing is, like, hopefully you are legend. If you did make it, congratulations. I'm really legend, so I can have a lot of fun, but it really just depends on like how I feel or like what I'm going to do for the day. Anyways, again, if you haven't done so yet, please like and subscribe. If you see on the bottom right, you can quickly just hover over it. You see that little arrow or box that says subscribe? You can literally hover over it and just click sub, so you don't have to scroll down or anything like that. Good luck in your Go Battle League sets, and I will see you guys on the next video.